My name is Michael Steger, and I'm the curator or the head of the snake of the International Performance Festival in Berlin, and this year's edition's title was Survival. Survival for sure means directly also the struggle in the way it's a performance art festival, the struggle to survive this performance art. Over the last 4 years, we produced, since we decided to give the festival a title, we started out with Hunger, Escape, Cut, and finally Survival Festival. And basically all these themes have one thing in common. They describe a need for the human to survive. And in that way, we want to inspire the participating artists with the theme, which is always a large word. Survival is a huge theme, to give them a huge frame, actually, in which they have many opportunities to exhibit their performance work.
Anyone else wants to have a photograph of the gun? Just to feel cool or something?
Evolution. I'm Philip Kevin Breze, and I'm part of the team of co-organizers for the Survival Festival. This year's festival was an extremely diverse gathering of artists from Asia, South Korea, from many cities in Europe, Scandinavia, from the United States, from Canada. Some are definitely soloists, others integrate with other artists who may or not be old friends from the performance art circles. I think we presented a very wide scope of performance, even performances which are beyond the border of academic performance art, like in the strict sense of the word, borderline dance performance, borderline information performance, lecture performance, music performance, even performances which borderline on theater, because we, in general, don't like the categorization of art. We try to play more freely with the borders of the different categories and disciplines of performance and juxtapose them with each other.
Like every year, we had very beautiful, strong works. And for me, became also more and more interesting to really go back to the street, to do street performances, even in prominent places like the Brandenburg Gate. Because there was, with easiest means, you get another attention, and you really can, because you can change the color of the day, of the reality of the people, unexpectedly.
Very special location of the Brandenburg Gate, which we actually didn't plan to do, but we had a request from Jung-Woo Shin from South Korea, who had a dream of performing at the Brandenburg Gate. This is a very special day because it's quite illegal. It's impossible to have an official permit for this location. Probably #1 tourist attraction of Berlin. So our audience are tourists, young people, old people, retirees, very international, and most of them having their very first experience with performance art. In the crowd we circulate and often are dealt with the question, what is this? What is this?
In that way, I think it is a good mechanic to use the public space and then the art space in exchange. And I don't want to put the performance art in a temple where it's like only for an exclusive audience. No, I think it is very important to make it accessible to everybody.
Go back to the main point is that there is an incredible necessity for us human beings to express ourselves and to interact with other people through a foreign language, through an unknown language, which is for me the definition of performance art. To make people ask themselves the question, what is that? How do I experience that? How do I digest that? And does it move me intellectually? Does it move me in my heart? Does it move me not at all? That people are confronted themselves with the definition. Very moving performance. I mean, we were moving around the city, and I think this made it very exciting and also very exhausting to the guest artists. For the most part, we were working from our home base at the BLO ateliers. This year, a very good contact for us is Nabi Nara from South Korea, who recently opened a small gallery in Kreuzberg called the Soma Gallery. And she invited us, we asked her if we could present an evening there. In addition to that, the Days of Intervention, the airport field, which for us Berliners is a very special place, gesture of liberty, having won the public vote that the airport field will not be developed at least for the next 5 years.
The winner here! Do you know that?
Yeah!
die Stadt?
Uns gehört die Stadt!
Wem gehört das Feld?
Uns gehört die Welt!
Oh, wie verpiss dich! Keiner vermisst dich!
This was really an experiment in that the airport field was a huge challenge for performance art. It's vast space, which inspired some artists and intimidated others. One of the most unique locations that I know internationally, because I can't think of another city which has in the middle of a city an abandoned airport. The airport is of historical significance. At the end of World War II, it's the location of the dropping of supplies and food from the Allied forces for the survivors of Berlin. Before that, it was used as exercise field for the troops of the Kaiser times to practice marching. We wanted to reflect this also in our performance with the color guard, with the flags. I think the Survival Festival was over-demanding to all people involved. I think artists need a certain amount of rest, good nutrition, a good place to sleep, a little money in their pocket, and I don't think that's too much to ask or to goal for, even with a provocative theme like survival. Many people tried interesting experiments to go without, but in fact, that's nothing new for us because we're doing that all the time. McHenry did an intervention, in fact, beginning a few days before the festival, a kind of pre-festival action, where he locked up his belongings at the airport field and went through the labyrinth of finding out how to be homeless in Berlin. The surprise for me from that experiment is that it wasn't too difficult for him. It was quite interesting to find out that Berlin is a city with many options for people who have emergency situations, in fact.
Do you think it might be okay to stay someplace here tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got the ticket.
Oh, that's great. That'd be really helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sleeping in Tipi Land during the night was quite an experience. There was a lot of rats running around when I was walking through the little pathways in the evening time on my way to the tent.
For me, to survive as an artist is that I get paid a certain fee. Best would be that I can live from my work and don't have to do another job. This is not the case, especially if you do something like performance art.
I prefer to leave away the financial aspect of this question. I think that we have a necessity to express ourselves and create, to stay alive. People who have an artistic nature, they must produce and create. It is essentially necessary for them, like breathing and eating. We ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong to obtain greater recognition and greater financial support? It seems highly unlikely to realize a dream of establishing a house for performance art in Berlin.
We don't manage so far to give it a really solid standing in the art world. It's just vanishing, and it is the financial resources for performance art, in my way, they don't exist. I think they just don't take us serious. Every year we try to get also a larger funding, like what we would need a budget of maybe like starting maybe 25,000 or 50,000 euro. We always got like a small funding from the boroughs of Berlin. I question myself if this is the right way. How could we find other resources than to be dependent on state funding? Because the problem with any kind of funding from the state actually cuts freedom. Even if they tell us always we live in the free Germany, but it is also a state of capitalism and slavery.
It was really a lot. Every day, almost a different location, almost 20 performances a day.
For me, it was always before, it was like after the festival is the next festival. And yeah, this year it is a little bit different. I decided after this festival there will be a festival, but not so near in the next future, because with this lack of resources, it makes you also tired, you know. You have to be always up to date, you have to produce. And that's also why I say, after the survival, now we're taking a break and cure our artistic cat. Not to let the artist die, you know, because the only thing what we can do is, we cannot save the world, but we can give the people the moment to see the reality different. And there's already the big chance. Don't be captured by the fear which is always on you for your existence. So, yeah, art is a weapon against fear, basically. That's I would put it now.
Lebe. Schau. Erblickst du dort den Nebel?
Life, Eli, Efil.
Umwoben von uralten, mystischen Gestalten. In ihnen lebt wie eine Wahrheit. Fort und fort.
Nur eine mystische Gestalt.